Okay, everyone. So this is the last video, at least for now, on the close reading papers for National 5 and for Higher. And I just want to give you a few bits of advice regarding how you might sort of study for and prepare for this particular kind of test. So if you have a wee look here, the most obvious thing is that you really need to read a lot. I'm sure I said it at the start of this series, but if the only time you ever see the kind of articles that come up in a close reading paper is when you open a close reading paper, then you are putting yourself at an absolutely massive disadvantage when it comes to the exam. You're making it really incredibly difficult for yourself to do any more than scrape by if you're lucky, because so much of your time and your attention and your sort of like brain power when you go to do the test is spent trying to cope with a bit of reading that you're not used to. So there's all sorts of processes that have to sort of happen while you're reading it for you to be able to kind of fully understand it and take it all in. Whereas if you're used to reading this kind of stuff, if this is what you do every single day, then you'll find that actually you'll be able to get through the reading side of things more easily. You'll take more in as you're reading it as well, and you'll find it much easier to answer the questions. And that applies both to the in your own words questions and to the analysis questions. It'll all be much more straightforward. So aim for reading high quality non-fiction, feature or comment type pieces. I said this before, not news articles and listicles and gossip pages and sport pages and stuff like that. It needs to be people, either analysing an issue or expressing an opinion, something like that. And don't take it like from the tabloids and stuff like that. Not that there aren't good people who write for some of the tabloids. It's just that the way things get edited once they're in the tabloids means they're not quite as useful for us. You want to use the kind of things you're likely to see. That's going to come from stuff like Guardian, Herald, Scotsman, New Statesman, Times, those kind of things, or online things as well. Websites like Vice and Longreads are really good one. Loads and loads of stuff on there. A lot of them much longer than the kind of thing that you'd be asked to deal with in an exam, but so what? Get used to reading stuff that's longer, and then the exam looks dead easy. Something else that people or something that people sometimes benefit from, and something maybe worth bearing in mind if you're having a look through past papers, is that there are ways in which people sort of help themselves focus. So I've had students in the past who have used a couple of bits of paper to kind of block out anything that isn't the specific lines they've been told to reference. So in this case, it says lines 4 to 8. What they do is a couple of bits of paper or something, and block out everything except lines 4 to 8, which means that they just get kind of laser focused on the specific part they've got to deal with. The other thing I sometimes see people do is underlining some of the specific instructions in the question. So here I've underlined, language and convey concerns. I've had students in the past who would have also underlined, at least 2 examples. For me personally, I never kind of have used or do use this kind of thing, but that's, I think the questions are relatively clear, but I'm a teacher, you would expect that. If this is the kind of thing that you find helpful, then great, then do it, no problem at all. The main thing though, and just to sort of come back to this, is this thing about needing regular practice. So that means regular reading, but it also means regular practice of the processes that are involved and the thinking stages that are involved in all of this. Then you can use past papers for that, and we'll use past papers, and I've got example papers that I've made up before, and that's no bother at all. It's not really enough though, just to depend on past papers with set questions that you will kind of work your way through, and there are only 5 of them, so you're going to run out of material pretty quickly. What I would recommend that you do is something similar to if you look back at the first structure video in this list, where I had just taken a text off the Guardian and had to look through it, and the example I showed you was the repetitive structure and the use of a colon. But in principle, you can do this with anything. You can take any sort of vaguely appropriate article, and if you're not sure whether things are appropriate or not, just ask me and I'll tell you. And then you can make yourself do the things that a question paper would ask you to do. So pick maybe 2 of the paragraphs and get yourself to summarise the argument being made in maybe 2 or 3 bullet points, assume that's the marks available. Pick a couple of paragraphs and actually physically write out what the answer would be if that was the paragraph in the test and you were being asked to analyse the examples of language. For example, make yourself essentially, I suppose, practice papers by just using these kind of standard open questions on any appropriate text. Okay, so If you think there are things that I've maybe missed out in this, if there are bits that you think haven't been all that clear, then get in touch and I'll clarify it for you one-to-one if we need to. If it's something a bit bigger, then that's fine. I can make other videos, I can make more material for you, no bother at all. The idea of these video series is just to give you an introduction and all the kind of key information, and to make sure you've got something you can refer back to through the year to give you a hand. So hopefully they do that. And hopefully you find that when it comes to actually having a crack at some of these close reading papers, it's all a bit more straightforward for you now.